Started here. So guys, the tip of the week today is we're going to be talking about guaranteed issue life insurance. Now this is true. This is true guaranteed insurance. So we talked about United Life a little bit, which is going to be a great fit. It's almost guaranteed issue, but not quite guaranteed issue. Um, so what Jimmy and I are going to be covering today is when should you absolutely unequivocally be putting your folks into a guaranteed issue products. Now, often two times, and I especially see this, Jimmy, with new agents, is they're writing like tons of Gerber or AIG, and then I'm like, man, you're getting a lot of guaranteed issue. Well, yeah, man, this person had diabetes really bad, or they had COPD, or I mean, things like that. And I was like, dude, you didn't have to go guaranteed issue. You could have gone, Transamerica. You could have gone Moog rated, and got, almost twice the commission versus in a better product. You didn't have to go guaranteed issue. So we just want to kind of cover this and make sure exactly when you have to go guaranteed issue, and maybe there's some opportunities out there that you don't have to go guaranteed issue with. Have you ever walked up, Jimmy? How many times have you seen this sign when you walk up to a house that taped
Yeah.
taped in the window? You know, I don't know about you, but when I see this, man, I see like dollar signs. Like this is like one of my favorite signs, man. When I'm walking up to a house and I see the oxygen in use sign, I'm like, cha-ching. I'm like, man, this is gonna be a sale. And
I would say that's a lay down.
I hope you guys feel the same way, man. When you walk up to a house and you see the oxygen sign taped in the window, don't get discouraged. These are going to be your best customers, man. They're like so excited that they can actually get coverage, man. So the danger, do not smoke. Oxygen in use. That is your friend. I promise you, it's your friend. These are our guaranteed issue carriers as of right now. I didn't have United Life on here. I had these slides prepared before the launch. But guaranteed issue, as currently we have AIG, we have Gerber, we have Great Western. Really, AIG has really become our go-to company. They're really easy to do business with. I like their e-application. They pay advances. Now you do have to, just a little caveat there. You do have to issue five cases. So with AIG, your first five cases are going to be paid as earned. Once you get five cases in, then we can flip you into advanced commissions with AIG. So I like that. Their rates are awesome. Gerber, another great carrier. And then Great Western too. Great Western we hardly ever use. The only time I really use Great Western is if you have someone that is younger, like under the age of 50, because their starting age is 40. But now that we have United Life, man, I mean that's really going to take the place of for those younger people, maybe in their 30s or 40s, who need guaranteed issue. So guys, we got awesome carriers for guaranteed issue. They're extremely competitive. AIG and Gerber are both super competitive when it comes to guaranteed issue. And they all offer, you can do either paper applications or you can do e-applications with these. So Jimmy, here's what I did. I laid out some of the kind of like the common health issues that clients run into where they may have to go guaranteed issue.
Hmm.
And this is I really could use your help on here, but a couple of things I want to point out is in some of these cases, you may or may not have to go guaranteed issue. Let me just see here. Congestive heart failure, which is the first one for almost every carrier that is going to be, if they're currently taking medication for congestive heart failure, it's almost always going to be guaranteed issue. Except for now, we have United Home Life. Also, depending on how many other things they have going wrong with them, with congestive heart failure, you could also go. I'm just going to put a TA. You can also go Transamerica graded with congestive heart failure. Still, it's 2-year reduced death benefit. Um, Take a look at their rates. They're usually really horrible, so that's why we typically don't use Transamerica. But it is potentially an option as long as they're not marking yes on any of the other questions. Also, oxygen use. Now we know oxygen use was not on the UL questions, was it?
No.
Okay, so now when we walk into a home and we see the oxygen sign, we can think, I'll just put a UL there. We can think United Life for that. So now, if they're on oxygen and they have kidney dialysis, then obviously, it's going to be a no-go. Or what about Alzheimer's or dementia? Was that on the list?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a knockout with
With United Life. Yeah.
okay. So guys, if you walk in a home and really their only major problem, they got, let's say COPD and they're oxygen dependent. We now got this great carrier, United Life. We can do that. Also, by the way, Transamerica, if they're on oxygen, provided they don't have a ton of other stuff wrong with them, you can also look at TA graded. Um, Alzheimer's or dementia, um, that's guaranteed issue all day long, right, Jimmy?
Yep. All day long.
Yeah, there's nobody, just go straight guaranteed issue, man. There's no, don't bother calling me. Don't call Jimmy. Don't call the carrier. Just write it up, AIG or Gerber, one of the whichever you have. Kidney dialysis. Kidney dialysis is typically a knockout. Now, if you look closely with Transamerica, they don't ask about kidney dialysis until the second set of questions. So you could potentially get them qualified with kidney dialysis through Transamerica graded, but again, take a look at that and take a look at the rates through AIG. Typically, the rates are so high with Transamerica, we just say, forget it, and we just go guaranteed issue because the premiums are so much less with AIG. And then we have diabetics with complications. Now, when I say top complications, I'm not talking about neuropathy because we have great carriers that can cover that. I'm talking about the bigger stuff. If they've had insulin shock, they've been in a diabetic coma, or if they have an amputation. Now, depending on what's going on with your clients, and depending on whether or not they have multiple items wrong, just because your client has had complications like insulin shock or diabetic coma doesn't automatically mean that they have to go guaranteed issue. I'll give you some examples here. Let's see. Let's do the first one here, insulin shock. I'm going to put this here. Okay, if they've had insulin shock, you don't have, and they're still potentially eligible for Liberty Bankers Life. I'm going to put an LBL modified, or they could go Foresters Financial. I'm going to put an FF there for Foresters Financial. And insulin shock, I believe, and you can also do TA graded as well. So if your clients have experienced that, you potentially do have some options. Price it out. See which is going to be the best way to go. You may have to end up going guaranteed issue anyway, but at least check it out. Maybe you can do that. Diabetic coma. I know for sure with Transamerica, diabetic coma is a knockout. But the same thing here. LBL. I'll just put some quotations. LBL is good, and Foresters is good, but then no TA for diabetic coma. But with those other ones, you can still get Insulin shock, and these would all be modified. So insulin shock or diabetic coma, you can go LBL or Forsters Financial, their modified platform, which potentially could be better than going graded. Amputation, I don't know any. Can you think of anybody that covers that?
Well, if it's for disease or disorder, it's going to be guaranteed issue. But if it was for something else, maybe it was an accident.
Right. Yeah, that's
Then
totally different. I'm talking about like amputation due to diabetes. Dude, even if it's their little pinky toe, that's an amputation.
yep.
So, because usually they start with the toes, they cut the toes off, then they cut the foot off, then they cut the leg off. It's usually a progressive thing. So, amputation due to disease. Now, Jimmy, here's a good. Is that on the list with United Life?
No.
Oh, so here you go, guys. Somebody's got, you walk into a house and they've got horrible diabetes where their leg has been amputated. Guess what? United Life to the rescue.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. Wheelchair use, is that on United Life's list?
No, sir.
There you go. There's another opportunity for, you walk into the house and, um, because of chronic disease or whatever, they're full time in a wheelchair. Now you can go United Life
Yeah,
versus,
I'll give you an example. I had a lady earlier this week. She was confined to a wheelchair for polio.
okay.
Other than that, she's in good health. And this would be a perfect candidate for United Life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because everybody else with that, it's going to be either a decline. Let me see. With Liberty, if they're in a wheelchair use, you could still do Liberty Bankers. So wheelchair use, you could do LBL modified. I saw that on their application. And then also, guys, we're talking about like they're permanently confined to a wheelchair. So if you go into a house and they're in a wheelchair because they just had a hip replacement done or a knee joint done, that doesn't that's different. You can write up an explanation like for Mutual of Omaha or Transamerica, you can write up the explanation that it's a temporary use of a wheelchair because of a joint replacement or something like that. That's not an automatic knockout. That's just a temporary use of a wheelchair. So if they're perfectly healthy other than that, or I say perfectly healthy for a final expense client, they fall within the normal criteria. Find out, don't be embarrassed. Find out exactly why they're using the wheelchair, and it may just be because of some like a fracture. Maybe they fractured their foot, or maybe it's because of some type of joint repair that they had done. So don't automatically jump to the assumption wheelchair use that you have to go guaranteed issue or United Life. But that's a great option to have in there. Add United Life in there, and then our overweight clients. What about the people that are like super obese? I've had agents actually write people guaranteed issue because they were so heavy. Just remember, Transamerica does not have a height and weight chart. I think they're probably one of the only like regular final expense products that we have that don't have a height and weight chart. I can't think of any other ones. But as long as they're over the age of 45 with trans and you're using that app, guys, there's honestly, there's no height in height and weight chart with that. If they're having complications with something, maybe they have other issues because of that. Maybe you might have to go United Life, but definitely take a look at Transamerica first. Well, these are the ones I could think of off the top of my head, Jimmy, that were like the most common calls I get from agents as like, hey, do I have to go guaranteed issue because they have this? Are there any other ones before we move on? Or any other maybe health issues you could think of that we should talk about?
Um, No, Joe, I think you did a really good job. You were very thorough there. One other thing, you don't have it listed, but a lot of times people that have Parkinson's, people automatically assume that they have to go guaranteed issue. But
That's true. Yeah.
Parkinson's, you can go standard with Transamerica.
Yeah. I think Liberty Bankers too, right?
I'm not sure about the Liberty. One thing you didn't talk about was cancer treatment. Like let's say somebody's been cancer free,
Hmm.
um, for I don't know a short period of time, 6 months, a year, or something like that. Normally, that's going to be a turn down elsewhere. You can still write that here.
Yeah. Where would you? So, as an example, let's say I just got done with chemo uh, 6 months ago. Where would you put me with?
United Life.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Because most of them have most of them were looking at a 4 year look back, except for Liberty Bankers. Liberty
Hmm.
Bankers only has a 2 year look back for cancer treatment.
Correct.
Okay. What if cancer treatment's been over a year though? Like you've been cancer free for a year. I don't know if that's automatically declined or you might be able to get modified
I
somewhere.
think you can get modified with Liberty.
Yeah, you'd have to take a look at that guy. Take a look at that. But um, guys, this is the guaranteed issue. Remember, don't automatically just because they have some of these things. Some of them, like we said, like Alzheimer's, uh, kidney dialysis. I mean, usually those are going to be guaranteed issue. Now that we got United Life, we can cover all of these people except for a few of them, the Alzheimer's, dementia, and kidney dialysis. Those are the only exclusions on this list, which is really
Mhm.
cool. Application options. All these carriers, you can either do. Uh, I think I miss. Forgive my misspelling, but anyway, you can either do paper applications or electronic applications with these. Oh, what's really cool too. Let me go back here with the applications. These are so with AIG and Gerber, they're so short, guys. What I like about these, you can do them right on your phone. The only thing with AIG, they do need to have, it's required that they have to have an email address in order to do the e-app. So just make sure when you're starting the application, you get their email address before you start the process. Otherwise, it's going to slow you down. Now, Jimmy, we're going to talk about how to use cash value to make more sales. I know you've become an expert in this, and you've had several situations where you're able to make a sale when you come into a home and you find they already have a policy. So what I'm going to do is let me flip the call over to you and let you finish it up with this great tip of the week.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, I don't know if you've heard the saying, if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotting. And that pertains to, an agent coming to the point where they think that they know everything, And so if you think you know everything and there's nothing else to learn or you've seen it all, you're ripe. And that means you're going to rot. Always keep that mentality that you can learn. And that's what I always do. And so this next tip that I'm going to give you, I learned this from one of our agents over in Dallas. When he shared this with me about 2 months ago, like it just like blew my mind. And so I hope I can do the same for you. And now, I've already done this a few times. Last night, as a matter of fact, I helped a brand new agent in Colorado write up a customer that had this scenario. So basically, what I'm talking about is, let's say, for example, you're with a client, and I'll use the scenario that happened last night.
I
You're with
have.
a client.
Let me put that up.
Yeah. Let's take a
I
look at the first
have.
one.
I think this is the. Is this the case study here?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So this person, he was a 62-year-old male tobacco user. He had schizophrenia. He had diabetes, started at the age of 44. He's not on insulin. He has a current policy with Lincoln Heritage for 6,000, and he's paying $36.90. He's had it for 7 years. He wants another 6,000. You know, the agent quoted Transamerica 4202 was the monthly premium. That was out of his budget. The guy says, I talked to him. They had me on speaker, right? This was like late at night after 10 o'clock because I get a little bit earlier time zone. But I'm on speaker with the guy, and the guy's like, well, look, you know, I don't want to spend more than another $36 a month. Maybe I'll just call Lincoln Heritage. And I said, well, you know, sir, the thing is you got this policy when you were 55. You know, if I were to quote you 6,000 to 55, my rate would actually beat the $36. But you're 7 years older. And so, this is, I just want to kind of go through what typical people would do. This is what I used to do. You know, I would say, okay, well, why don't we reduce the face amount and let's go with additional 4,000 and give you a $10,000 total cost, and that puts him in his budget range. Now the thing with that is, I would always say, having something is better than nothing. You can do a lot more with 10,000 than you can with 6, and I'd go for for the little cell. But what we did is I got him to look up his policy because the guy kept telling me, hey, I have cash value. I'm in my 7th year. And I said, well, look, there's a strategy that we use to help people get the coverage that they want and keep the budget where they want. And so, Joe, if you can go to the next slide showing the guy's, there it is right there. So that's the page. 7 years, he had a $6,000 death benefit. His cash value was $863. But if he were to surrender his policy, that column there to the right is his paid up insurance. He has a paid up policy of $2,000, right? And so what we did is said, look, you're gonna take up the paid in full policy for $2,000. Now we're gonna quote you $10,000. So go back to the previous slide, Joe, and we quoted $10,000 Transamerica, and that puts his total premium at $67.70 a month, and giving him a total coverage of $12,000, which is what he wants. Now, if we would have just added 6, his total combined payment would have been $78.92. So you can see that we saved him $11 a month. That was enough motivation for him to move forward with the policy. He loved it. He was excited about the idea. The guy was like, man, that's sharp. I want to do this. So we wrote him up. Now, you might get lucky. I've had some people do this where I show them this exact same strategy, and then they'll say, well, you know what? I could really use that cash value. How much would the 12,000 be, right? So then we end up quoting them 12,000 and get even a bigger deal, and they go ahead and just, take the cash value because they need that for something else. You might find people wanting it for Christmas, or maybe they have an emergency coming up. But just to, we didn't put the number up there, but just to throw it out at you, if you wanted the 12,000 all with Transamerica, you're looking at $80.54. I did this with an Uber driver a couple of months ago, and we ended up getting, I believe the total premium was like right at $104 a month because he wanted to cash out on the cash value.
Yeah, I remember that you were telling me about that.
And here's something I want to tell you. Pay attention here, guys, because this is like a real life situation. So I had the guy on speakerphone. He's a really nice gentleman. His name was Steve. And he goes, hey, Jimmy, this is before I presented this strategy. He goes, I see the price there, the $42 a month. That's a little bit out of my budget. I tell you what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to think about it, and I'll get back to you. I'll probably do it. Don't worry. I'm probably going to do it. I just need to think it over. I realize that I'm 7 years older. It's probably a good rate, but I'm just going to think about it. Okay. How many times do you hear that in the field? Let me tell you something. When people tell you that they want to think about it, they're telling you no. learn how to read between the lines. That's a nice way of saying they're not interested. They're never going to call you back. And when you call them back, you're probably not going to get a hold of them. If you do, they're going to have to break your heart and tell you they decided not to do it. Guys, don't take that as a what's the word I'm looking for? A consolation to getting a sell. Oh, I'm gonna maybe get a B back. No, you're not gonna get it. You need to figure out a way to make it happen. And in this particular case, when I presented him this strategy, he loved it. Not only did we close the sell, but we bumped the premium up to 67.70 a month. So that, I think that was a pretty decent deal and a great learning experience for a brand new agent.
Yeah, I agree, man. But you got to know this little technique because most agents would have, if they already have six, they would think, well, man, he's been in it for 7 years. I don't want to mess with that. And so the only really solution would be adding on another six. This is a great technique where you take the reduced paid up amount and you're actually, you're coming in cheaper by doing it this way.
Yeah.
So yeah, 7 years later, just it really shows how competitive we are with our pricing. And then the other thing too, Jimmy, like you said, when you show them their options, a certain percentage of the people will say, well, how much would it be if what if I just cashed my policy out and just did the full 12 grand? You'll have a certain percentage of people that will go that way as well. It's like, man, I'd rather have the cash because they can see the value. They see how great your product and your premiums are. But it's just a matter of thinking outside the box a little bit, I guess. But
Now, I do want to add a couple of things, Joe. You know, one, don't suggest them to take the cash value. Let them bring that up. And trust me, they will bring it up on their own. Okay. The reason why you don't want to suggest that is, they paid into it for years. In this case, the guy had it for 7 years. He doesn't want to just like give up his policy. How many times have people said that? So I don't ever suggest that to him. I present it as a positive. Look, you have 2,000 already paid in full. See, they feel like they got their money's worth. They're not just canceling the policy that they paid into. So that's the way you want to present it. The other thing too, just as a little like side note, because this kind of ties into what Joe talked about on the guaranteed issue. The agent, of course, he's brand new, so I think this was his second app. He's like, hey Jimmy, the guy has schizophrenia. Who am I going to go with? Because Mutual of Omaha says it's graded, right? So at least he knew. He read the application and knew that he was going to have to go graded with Move. So then I told him about Transamerica, and then he goes, well, he also has diabetes, and he had it when he was 44. And so then I asked, is he on insulin? No. Okay, great. I mean, this is still a preferred rate with Transamerica. So with that preferred rate, here's what's key is that this is day one coverage. So even though he had that other policy, he's not going into a 2-year graded period. We're giving him coverage from day one. And I always show people the brochure and I pull it out and I circle that where it says, full death benefit available on day one. And that's in the Transamerica brochure. So, I mean, these are all little tips that help you, support your strategy to close the sale. And that's
awesome, amazing.
Yep. All right, Joe, I don't know if you want to add to that or.
No, man, this is perfect, dude. I tell you what, perfect time to wrap it up. We're wrapping up 10 minutes early, so that's awesome. So thank you so much, Jimmy. I hope you guys, everybody, enjoyed the webinar. I hope you got something out of this. Like I said, we always try to be informational and give you guys some tips to show you how to make more sales and make more money out in the field. All right, Jimmy. God bless everybody. Take care. Bye, Jimmy.
Bye.
Talk to you soon, man. Bye-bye.